all have kind of referred to or directly talked about the geopolitical overtones of this, right? And our government itself has pretty publicly pointed to bad actors in countries like China and Russia and others. Tell me more about how you're seeing foreign governments using cyber attacks, motivations, what are they looking for? And maybe most relevant, us as employees in private companies, how do we protect ourselves against a foreign power?
That's a loaded question, isn't it, Himesh? So, it's a great question, right? It's so in terms of the fact that, I certainly have said, should we ever be expected to be successful in defending ourselves against a nation state? That's a really tough question. I think clearly for the most sophisticated, countries, and it's a short list. It still is a short list, although I will say there are. I can certainly in the 20 years as a CISO, I can say it was a much shorter list 20 years ago in terms of nations that had recognized that cyber was the future, and really a space for warfare as well, and from a national security strategy perspective. But I certainly think, no, I think there's certainly a industry bar that we as corporations are expected, to invest in and improve our security capabilities. But there is a reason why, we have, law enforcement, NSA, other agencies, and again, we're a global company, so I can spend time with the BSI in Germany, with the Australian CERT, their cybersecurity center on any given day, as well as here in the U.S., talking to different agencies. I think that's a big challenge, right? I mean, I think it's never zero risk. I always say it all depends on who you're playing against. If I took my son's high school baseball team and put it up against the New York Yankees, I don't think they're going to fare very well on any given day. So, but I think we do have, as corporations, a responsibility to our shareholders to be in the pack with our peers, invest appropriately, and try and make sure that we have a certain level of maturity that is acceptable for us as a cloud company, and also an on-prem, a business application provider for our customers. It's a pretty high bar. I mean, we compare ourselves with all the hyperscalers on a regular basis from a security perspective. They're also competimates with us, so we're delivering on top of their platforms. So we constantly assess that bar. We get third-party reviews of that, and we actually use the NIST standard cybersecurity framework as that bar at a control level across the environment. But you're always going to have losses. It's a question of whether they're going to be acceptable losses or not on any given day, and that really is the challenge. How quickly can you respond and mitigate attacks against your corporation so that they're not fatal?
Do you see this as the new global governmental arms race? And then do you see a need for governments to take more responsibility for companies and citizens in their own territory?
I certainly do. So I certainly believe that not only is there, for those that are of the willing and want to establish, good norms in terms of cyber, those countries are talking about how to facilitate that. They're talking about how to deter the other behavior. But obviously, we still have other countries that see it as, a fair game, let's put it that way, spy versus spy. The ability to whether change an election, steal the latest defense technology, and move their program from 5th place to 2nd place, at 10% the cost. I think we're always going to have those players who are not going to, recognize those norms and operate outside the law. I can certainly tell you when I was an FBI agent, I still remember walking into the U.S. Attorney's Office with some cases that were cyber back in the late 90s. And the U.S. attorneys then, although I will say it's a lot better now, I can certainly tell you it's a lot better now. They would just look at me and be like, Tim, we don't even know what to do with this, right? It's Eastern Bloc country. It's, 5 different countries involved, cyber, all over the place. It was just not prosecutable, let's put it that way. So probably a little bit back to Craig's point earlier. But I can say, law enforcement has gotten a lot better, both from a capability perspective. I can certainly tell you, they have computer scientists who are excellent. They're very supportive during an incident. They can give you a good perspective on the actor groups that are working against your company and the types of attacks that they are perpetrating against your industry, so that you can have comparison. So I do think it's a long way from where it was when I left the bureau. Thank God. And that's great to see, but we still have a long way to go. I mean, we can probably spend another hour talking about the talent need in this space, which is it's a massive gap for our country, but also for our corporations. But that's where I am.